Now I got to separate the two.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so Chavav, right? So that wonderful story of the mother-in-law burning her daughter-in-law, right? Yeah. Then the definition of what Karmim and Yoigvim are. Then we said no lighting with tevel that's tummy even during the week, meaning even a kohen is not allowed to benefit from it until it gets separated as truma. And then we went through different oils that can be lit. Then we said cloths less than 3 by 3 tefachim are from wood, then they're not makabel tuma, and pishton, right, flax also. And we have continuation of that, and then we discussed how we know 3 by 3 by pishton by flax is makabel tuma, 3 fingers by 3 fingers. Yeah. Okay, so we're picking it up by Chav Zayin Amar Aleph Amar Abaye. Actually, it's beginning. It's a little dry. In the middle is actually Geshmak, because it discusses Hilchas Tzitzis, and then we get back to Tum and Tara. Okay. Amar Abaye. Hi Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. Mapich meidach. Mapik meidach. Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. This Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel is different than the other Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. Right, the way Rabbi Shmuel said, "Beged ainli ela beged semer ainli ela beged." It says that you have a beged becomes tummy. That only tells me beged semer pishta minayin. How do I know that wool and flax can also become tummy?
Where are you?
Chav Zayin Amud Aleph. We did a little bit more last night. Chav Zayin Amud Aleph, about a little bit more than halfway, a little bit up from halfway down. Amar Abaye. You got it? Anybody have it?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay, so Amar Abaye again. Hi, Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. Mapik meidach Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. This Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel is different, or it's opposite of the other Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel, beged, ainli ela beged, beged. That only tells me a beged. I'm sorry, ainli ela beged semer pishtin. That only tells me a beged made out of wool and linen. Minayin l'rabbi semer gemalim. The wool of camels, with semer anovim, and the wool of, what do you call anovim? Rabbits, thank you. Notza shall izim, and the hairs of goats, v'hashirin, v'kelach, v'asrikin, right? And all these are all types of different, what do you call them? Not skins, not skins. Hair from animals. How do we know that all of them will become Talmud I beged? So it says I beged. So therefore we learn out that it's other things besides for wool and linen are can become tummy. So you see clearly that's not like the Rabbi Shmuel, who said that only wool and linen and that's it. So Rava Amar ki lesle lahach Tana de Rabbi Shmuel b'shar begadim shalosh al shalosh. When did this Tana say that there's no tumah? That's when it's 3 fingers by 3 fingers. Shlosh al shloisha isle. But if the other Rabbi Shmuel that we learned a blot ago says that when it's 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim, then there he does say he would agree that other garments are also. So basically, what Rav is trying to say is that there's no confliction between the Rabbi Shmuels. The previous Rabbi Shmuel is talking about 3 fingers by 3 fingers, and this Rabbi Shmuel is talking about 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim. Second part says, "Rav Huda Amar Shloisha al Shloisha B'Shar Begadim." The Rabbi Shimon Lazar Isla Latana Rabbi Shmuel Lazar. Rava himself before said that the difference between Tana Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Shimon Lazar is 3 tefachim by 3 tefachim versus 3 fingers by 3 fingers. So therefore, you clearly Rava holds that this Tana Rabbi Shmuel holds that anything more than 3 fingers by 3 fingers doesn't make a difference, and it's not going to become tummy. So Hada be Rava me'ahi. So we answer Rava changed his mind from what he said before. Okay, that's an easy teretz. Viva is saying Rav Papa Amra. This is not Rava that said it. It's Rav Papa that said it. Rav Papa Amra, because Rav Papa says Af Kol Lasuya Klayim, that the Af Kol that we said before is coming to include semer and pishtin, wool and linen. That's coming to include Klayim, right? Which is wool and linen together. Right, so that's that Rabbi Shmuel, but this Rabbi Shmuel will be something else. I mean, one was Papa, one is Rava, therefore it's not a stira. So Gemara says, Klayim behead yuksivi be Klayim, it says, the Farish in the Torah, Silba Shatnis, Tzemer Pishtin Yachtav. Right, it says, don't wear Shatnis, and what is Shatnis? Tzemer and Pishtin together, wool and linen together. So what I need Rav Papa to tell us that there's another pasuk that's coming to include that, right? That's Tzemer and Pishtin, it says, Befarish in the Torah. So Salk, I mean, Derech Levisha. That's only when you're wearing the garment the way you normally wear clothes, meaning it's a garment that you wear it. But if you're just putting it on you and you're not wearing it, right? Let's say, I don't know if it's a scarf. I don't know exactly what what type of halah. It's maybe taking a jacket and putting it on your shoulders or something like that. But how do you know halah? How do you know that has a shatnez issue? Halah called trey meaning also. There would be any two types of, meaning if not for a papa, you would think that shatnez of tzemer and pishtin only applies to clothing. But if you're going to take a scarf or a jacket or something that you're just going to put it on you, maybe then you would, any two types of clothing, let's say camel hair or this or that, that would be a problem with shatnez. And therefore a papa comes along and says, no, there is no problem of any other fabrics, that's the word I'm looking for, any other fabrics other than wool and linen, not a problem. So yeah.
One thing I don't understand about that.
That's it. Then you're doing pretty good because you're ahead of me. Yeah.
Just to focus on one thing, the whole idea of shatnez is mamash a chayk. How can we go ahead and add to this chayk? We even have a hava meaning to add to this chayk. Meaning he's saying Allah ba'Allah, we're going to say that any two materials would be usher. Where do you get that from? Shatnez itself is something that is a chiddush min
Right, that's true. But the problem is that I beged, because what's I beged coming to tell us?
But even so, I guess we're handling interpretations, but even so, like you're gonna add to I don't know, darshan, whatever other sheet is going on in the Gemara.
Okay,
there's other ways
fair.
to darshan.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. I hear. But when it gets to drushes, it's very hard to understand where.
No, but I'm just saying there are other ways to darshan. You have to have
right. But the Gemara really is asking. I think the Gemara's next kasha is really what you're asking, but it's asking it stronger. Saying v'lav kava chaymeru, is it in a kava chaymer? Meaning umalav visha, right? Deka mishani kule gufe miklayim. If you're actually wearing the clothing, where your whole body is benefiting from the clothing. Amrat Tzemeru Pishtin in Midachrin. We say only wool and linen is a problem, but anything else is not a problem. Halal like kol shekain. So then putting it on your body, shouldn't it be a kol shekain? Right? Mm-hmm. Meaning if you only Tzemeru Pishtin is a problem when you're putting it on clothing and no other fabrics are an issue. So you're going to tell me that halal, which is not even putting it on your body, you're just resting it on your body. That's gonna include more garments, more. It doesn't make any sense, right? Ella to Rav Papa Bedusahi. Very interesting. Gemara says Rav Papa, it's a mistake. It's a mistake, or it's not true. What Rav Papa said is not true, which I guess Akiva is what you were saying, basically, right?
You're saying this idea.
What?
You're saying this idea is Bedusa, right?
Yeah. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amar Af Kol, what Af Kol is coming to include Lasu Yitzitzis, right? Meaning what? And this actually has a lot of halacha l'maisa here. Simon stuck in the middle of the tumah, right? It's coming to include tzitzis. That what? Tzitzis, meaning that's the only garments that require tzitzis on it are tzemer and pishtin, wool and linen, and that's it. So when it says tzitzis behead yiksiv. What do you mean? What tzitzis? It says it straight up in the pasuk. Loy silba shatnez tzemer pishtin. Says don't wear shatnez, don't have wool and linen. Uksiv gedilim taselacha. Right, and it says you should make yourself tzitzis. Right, so we learn out that it's only tzitzis is required for tzemer pishtin, wool and linen. So when it says no sakadat chamina kedarava, so I would have thought like Rava the Rava Rami. Ksiv Rava has a stira. Ksiv hakonof min hakonof. It's hamin knaf. It says in the pasuk hakonof psilt chelas. Right. Which is the corner, should the hakonaf, which is the min konaf, the meaning that tzitzis should be the same type that the corner of the garment is made out of. Uksiv tzemer pishon yachtav, and the wool and linen should be together. Okay, tzemer pishon poitrin bein b'mina bein shalamim. This is an important gemara to learn. wool and linen will make any garment potter from tzitzis, whether it's the same type or not the same type. I'll explain that in a minute. Shar minin, other types of fabrics, the minon poitrin, shalei minon ain't poitrin. The way they are, if it's the same type, then it makes you potter. If it's not the same type, then it doesn't make you potter. Meaning, basically, if you have a garment, let's talk about the one that's most pertinent, at least to me, because I wear cotton tzitzis. So the pasuk clearly saying that wool and linen tzitzis are what's chayiv to have tzitzis on it, right? Rava, right? And then the Gemara seems that from the pasuk, it seems that only that. So cotton does not require tzitzis. Are you going to say, what's the big deal to wear cotton tzitzis? The answer is that's very nice, but you're not getting the mitzvah of tzitzis. If you're not chayiv to put tzitzis on, and the reason why we're wearing tzitzis is because we want to get a mitzvah, so you're not chayiv in tzitzis. You're not chayiv in tzitzis if you're not getting the mitzvah of tzitzis, right? So then this Rav is saying is that there's sort of like a compromise, and what he says is that if you have the actual strings of the tzitzis are wool and linen, then you could put those onto any garment, right? Cotton, camel hair, polyester, whatever it is, you could put that. You could put wool and linen on that, right? But if you want to put on tzitzis onto cotton, then your strings have to be made of cotton. If you want to have polyester tzitzis, then your strings have to be made out of polyester. Even though polyester is a bad example because according to almost all poskim, polyester is not chayiv in tzitzis. Hence the issue with those, what do you call those tzitzis? With the mesh, thank you, the mesh tzitzis, right? But anyway, so that's what Rava says. So the Rava, I would have thought like Rava, Kamash Malan, that we don't say like Rava, and therefore any type of tzitzis would work on any type of beged. So Amar Rav Achabre, the Rava, the Rav Ashi, the Tana, the Rav Yishmael, Maishna Lini Tumah, the Marbi Shar Begadim, Tichsev I beged, right? How come by Rav Yishmael he says the word I beged includes other things, meaning according to the second Rabbi Shmuel, why don't we say that we can include other garments because the extra word of asher techasaba, that you cover yourself, asher techasaba is part of the pasuk, that you cover yourself with the clothing. So no, that's coming to include, we're not going to include other garments in that. We're going to say that a blind person's clothing need tzitzis. Tanya, we learned the Brayso, and you should see the tzitzis, right? We say that every day in the Kriya Shema, we say you should see the tzitzis. Prat l'ksus laila, what it means to come to exclude is that you have to see them. It excludes wearing, let's say, a nightgown that doesn't need tzitzis because it's you don't see it at night normally because you can't see. So, therefore, we're coming to include that a blind person needs. Right? And, well, let's finish them. So the Tani Risa must say Pratlixus Laila. Seeing them, it's coming to exclude a night garment that doesn't need tzitzis. Atam Pratlixus Laila, Pratlixus Suma. Are you saying that it comes to exclude clothing at night, or is it only coming to exclude a blind person's clothing? Suma, Lixus Suma. So when it says in the pasuk that you have to be covered by it, Harexus Suma Amar. That's referring to the clothing of a blind person. So what's a reason? I say coming to tell you, Pratlixus Laila. It's coming to exclude Ksus Laila. So then the Gemara says, who says that you should include a blind person's garments and say that night garments don't need tzitzis? The reason why I'm going to include a blind person's garments, because even though granted he can't see his clothing, but other people can see his clothing, right? And I'm going to exclude Ksus Laila, who nobody can see that because it's only worn at night, right? So then Gemara says, maybe it's just coming to include other begadim and not the blind person at all. So if it's talking about wool and linen, so then it's coming it's coming to include something else that's tzemer pishtin. But if it's talking about wool and linen, should it include other begadim? Right? No. Once you're talking about tzemer pishtin, stick with it and include a blind person and exclude all other garments. Okay? Bottom line is, from this Gemara, seems pretty clear that tzemer and pishtin are what's chayiv in tzitzis, and cotton and other materials are potter, which is the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins. And many poskim are very strong that that's the only type of tzitzit you can wear, which is why the right-wing guys only wear wool tzitzis. Rav Moshe Feinstein was, to bring it down to a contemporary, was very, very, very strong that you have to wear wool tzitzis. And he says even in the summer, he says on a day that's extremely hot, okay, maybe you don't have to wear wool tzitzis. The Gra was very pro wearing cotton tzitzis, which is what the Chazon Ish did, which is what the Stipler did, which is what Reb Chaim Kanievsky does. If you ever see pictures, they wear cotton tzitzis. They do like the Gra, but cotton tzitzis with wool strings. Okay, so that's a big machlokes. I personally wear cotton. It's just too hot for me to wear wool. That's not like Rav Moshe. Okay, what should I do? The only thing is that in support of it is that we do wear a wool talis. So you are yotze every day your mitzvah with a wool talis, right? At least you're doing that. So then the rest of the day you're wearing cotton. You're really getting both. That's more of a reason to be mekel. What do you want to say, Peretz?
So, I did get into a fight with one of your siblings and your father. I was getting yelled at for not wearing wool tzitzis, and I was told I'm not very religious.
That's a
And your father-
shocker.
What?
They're both right.
I'm shocked.
Your father yelled at him and said, you may be being over on an isser by wearing wool if you're taka that hot and you're still wearing the wool.
There you go.
It kind
That
of
doesn't
won that
mean
argument.
That doesn't mean he was wrong that you're not religious.
No, we didn't argue. That wasn't the part of it.
Okay. Just making sure we're all.
That's
on the
that's
same
the
page.
tuffle and not the ikker. How do we get from in the Gemara stating that cotton is not chayat tzitzis to wearing, the gra and the chazon ish, etc., to them wearing cotton tzitzis with wool cotton beged with wool tzitzis? Where's that come from?
No, wait a minute. How do we get this from the Gemara? Because the Gemara is trying to learn out where tzemeru pishtim, meaning the pasuk says oy beged. So we're trying to learn out from there to any time the Torah says anything about beged. Does it mean a beged of wool and linen? Does it include any sort of type? So therefore, we digress into which type, because tzitzis also says beged, right? So is that wool and linen, or is that anything else?
But what you're saying, at least from the Gemara, is that we paskin at least that cotton is not a beged. So if cotton's not
Correct.
a beged at all, and I mean, even if you were to say that they're being machmir, which they may or may not be, I don't know, to actually wear tzitzis all day like that, if it's not considered a beged, then how are they putting tzitzis on it, and how are they being
Right? That's
cotton?
exact right. That's what Rav Moshe says. Rav Moshe says you should not be wearing cotton tzitzis. You're not yotze your mitzvah.
Well,
Again, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong because it doesn't even require tzitzis. Meaning, if you were to wear cotton tzitzis and it becomes puzzle your tzitzis, are you being over on an issa wearing a four-cornered garment without tzitzis? So according to Rav Moshe, you would not be over.
So then what's the problem? What's the problem with those mesh tzitzis then? I mean, if that's the case,
the mesh tzitzis made out of polyester. That's not even a garment. That's fake. It's plastic. Plastic, from what I understand, according to almost all poskim, is not a garment, so therefore it doesn't require.
Yeah, but
tzitzis.
we're not considering cotton a garment at this point either.
No,
So
we
that's-
are. Okay, we're saying, yeah.
Oh, it's kind of like an in-between meaning, like.
Correct. It's not Semeru Pishtim,
It's
but it is a
neutral.
legit.
It's neutral.
Yes, correct.
So,
Right,
but
it's not
would it
coming
be?
off an animal.
Would there be an isser then to put tzitzis on a jersey? I guess whatever that would be, a mesh.
It's no issur at all.
So
Meaning
who
you
are
have
they
a mila too.
signing?
You could wear a four-cornered mesh garment if it's made out of polyester and you don't need tzitzis on it.
So who are they simech on? Who says polyester is okay?
I'm not exactly sure. I looked into it because I could get hacked about it. I'm not exactly sure who they rely on.
I know.
I think
I
the
asked for
Piskei Teshuvos
Steinberg.
brings one opinion. I think maybe that would hold like that.
I asked for
Yeah.
Steinberg in person, and he said you can't put tzitzis on nylon.
There you go. Right. So that's the. There you go. My Sarab right there from Jesse.
Ravina from our hotel would rip them off of people.
See, that I don't say. There's nothing wrong with. I mean, you're just not getting the mitzvah. You're just not getting the mitzvah. You're not doing an issa.
It's Ravina. That's what he does.
All right. Hey,
How
yeah,
come?
listen.
How
Yeah.
come? I remember as a kid, just this wool and cotton, that it's an issue, and it's an issue on Shabbos that you should wear wool because of carrying or something like cotton. Does that make any sense?
Because that's a different issue. Because if you're wearing the garment on Shabbos, you're not allowed to wear garments that are. You have a heter to wear out of an Erev on Shabbos. You have a heter to wear something if it's clothing. If it's not clothing, you don't have a heter. It's carrying, right? So therefore, if you're wearing tzitzis, it's not really clothing. You're just wearing it to do the mitzvah, but you're not really getting the mitzvah. So then you have a problem.
Oh, so
Right.
like
So aren't there people who don't wear tzitzis on Shabbos?
There are
I don't
people.
know. I just remember my
don't wear
father.
tzitzis on Shabbos. Yes, but that's because they hold it. The whole thing is extra. Even wool they don't wear on Shabbos. Yeah.
I think if I remember, my father made me wear wool on Shabbos, and it had to be a size 26.
That's because maybe.
Also
that's
the size.
because, yeah, maybe that's
Like-
because he said you want to make sure you're being kind of the mitzvah legitimately on Shabbos as opposed to cotton. Maybe it's not as legit.
Was there a problem back in the day in like the 70s where they were like polyester suits then?
What do you mean?
If it wasn't considered a beged,
Yeah.
then and polyester or that type of nylon or whatever has no tsura of a beged, I guess whatever the word would be. But they're wearing it, that was the style of the day. Then would they be, if they didn't have an Erev, they're walking without an Erev, would they be considered carrying that?
in the
But they-
70s, they used to put tzitzis on their wrapping paper. You know what I mean?
No, as long as it was clothing, it's fine. You're not going to have an issue, right?
Some people should put tzitzis on their mouths.
What?
I don't know what
I'll
that
advise someone should put tzitzis on their mouth. Some of these loud mouths.
Nah.
All right, let's get moving. Yeah. Okay, weiter. So Amar Abaye, back in the Gemara, right? Now back to Tum and Tara. Amar Abaye, Rav Shimon ben Elazar b'Sumchus Amru Davar Echad. Rav Shimon and Elazar and Sumchus are saying the same thing. Rav Shimon and Elazar Hoda Amaran. Rav Shimon and Elazar is what we said, that only 3 fingers by 3 fingers, right, is the Kabbalah. Thomas Sumchus, Tanya Sumchus, Aimer, Sumchus says, Sichucha b'tvi, psula. If you put schach with something, tvi, spun, if it's spun, it's possible, Mesham B'tamas B'nagoyim, because it will become tame with tzaras, right? Meaning, anything that's, like we've been discussing, anything that becomes possible, if it's makabel tumah, there's different levels of tumah. There's tzaras tumah, there's, what do you call it? There's tzaras tumah, there's sheretz tumah, there's tumah's mace, there's tumah's keri, there's all sorts of different levels of tumah. So the question is, which level of tumah is it that will passel you from schach? So what Sumras is saying is that even something that's only passel is not makabel tumah, is makabel tumah from tzaras, still that would make your sukkah puzzle. It's like this Tana we learned in the Mishnah, Shesi ve'erev, right? If you have a woof and a whatever, what do you call it? Woof and a woo, whatever. Yeah.
The warp, come on.
A woof and a warp. There you go.
A warp and a
that's what I
woof.
tell you. A warp and a woof. Which one goes one way? One goes north to south. One goes to east to west. Yeah.
Right.
Shesi
Erev is the
ve'erev.
Erev. It's a
It goes
same thing.
east to west. Yeah. Metama ben negoyim miyad. Right when you weave it together, it becomes tamei tzaras immediately. The shesi only becomes tamei once you lift it out of the pot that you're making it into. Your how do you call it? You're finishing it with. Va'erev miyad, and the erev, the one that goes across, that's going to become a kabbatum immediately. Va'unin shal pishtan mishiyis lavnu, and bundles of flax that only is going to become a kabbatum once it gets white, right? Meaning in the oven, they dry it out to make it white, right? So therefore, what do you see from this? So it's like this Tana who says that these things can become the tummy immediately, and therefore you're gonna be possible for you to use it on top of your schach. Fine. Zog the Mishnah. Anything that comes out of wood, you can't light with it except for. Hold on a second. Okay, I lost you there. Anything that comes out of wood, you're not allowed to use for Friday night candles, except if it's flax. Anything that comes out of wood cannot become tumas oil, only flax. Meaning when you have an oil, right? You have a tent over a grave. So that makes everything, we discussed this a few days ago, that makes everything that's under that tent tummy, right? But what about the tent itself? Does the tent itself become tummy or not, right? So the Mishnah is saying anything that comes out of wood will not become tummy tumas oilim, but pishton will. So if you basically have a tent made out of flax, that then the tent itself will become tummy. Okay, so that's what the Mishnah says. So Minolan the Pishnan Ikri Eitz. How do you know that flax is called wood? Amar Razutra, the Amar Kra. Razutra says because the pasuk says, "V'hi alasam hagaga v'titmunim b'pishtei eitz." This is talking about what do you call it? Pelagish begiva, right? That she
No.
Rachav Azayna. I'm sorry, thank you. Yeah, Rachav Azayna who hid the what do you call it? I forgot the name. The spies she hid them in pishtei ha'etz, in flax, meaning they were hiding. So therefore, she put them on her roof. I think it was on her roof, and she hid them in barrels of flax. So it's called flax of wood. So clearly, you see that flax is wood. The things that come out of wood will not become it itself. Anything coming out of wood, it itself will not become tumas oil. Only flax. Minalon. How do you know? Amar Rav Lazar, Gamar oil mishkan. So we learn out oil from mishkan, right? Because it says here, it says a person will die in an oil. Oil ala mishkan, and you spread the oil on the mishkan, right? Meaning the mishkan, they put the not garments. What's it called? They put how do you call it? What they cover the mishkan with? Sheets, not sheets.
Well, technically, it was a garment.
It was a garment, yeah. Right?
Curtains?
Who?
Curtains?
Curtains, yeah, I think that's what they call it. I think they call it curtains. Whatever it is, so the pasuk says that a person dies in a tent, and it says, and it also says that the mishkan was a tent. Malahalan shel pishton kari oil, just like over there. Flax is called, or flax or linen is called oil by the Mishkan. Afkan shel pishton kari oil. So to here, pishton is called oil, and therefore, since it is an oil, it's called a tent, and therefore it's going to become tamei. Imalahala and shazur and bechutim kafel vav. So the Gemara asks this interesting thing: if we're learning everything out from the Mishkan, so it has to be similar to Mishkan in the other ways that the Mishkan's curtains were made too, right? Imal halan shazurin, it has to be spun. Bechuton kafel vav, and it needs to have 6 strings in each. Has to be made of 6. How do you call it? Thread has to be made of 6 strings. Afkan shazurin bechuton kafel vav. So maybe the only thing that will become tamei oil is something that has 6 strings that's spun. Tamalamer oil riba. So if it says oil, that it's coming to tell you only the oil part of it, it doesn't need to have the specifics. Oil riba, if you call me linami. So if you're saying that oil tells you that it's just coming to include something, so then why don't we just say that it includes everything other than, everything in addition to flax, meaning cotton and wool and whatever it is would also become tumas oil. If that's the case, the Gemara says interesting answer. If that's the case, then what do we need Gzeir Shava for? So since the Gzeir Shava is coming to tell us something, it must be coming to tell us that the only thing that becomes tamei is pishton, and that's it. So the Gemara says, "Ve'im malahalan krushim, afkan krushim." Then always say something else. Maybe since the Mishkan was made out of, it wasn't just curtains. The Mishkan also had wood on top of it. So maybe the only thing that will become tumas mace for is wood, just like by the Mishkan. So Amakrava sisa crush on the Mishkan, you make crush on the Mishkan. Mishkan kari Mishkan vein crush and Korean Mishkan. A Mishkan is called the Mishkan and Krushim are not called Mishkan. So therefore we don't learn out anything from that. Elamayat, if that's the case, vasisa michsel oil, hachanam michsel ikri oil, ella right hachanam. I'm sorry, but Elamayat, if that's the case, vasisa michsel oil, right? It says you should make a covering to the oil. So we say hachanam michsel ikri oil. Here too, the michsel is not called oil. Elahad by Rebbe Lazar, but Rebbe Lazar says ar behema tameya. Ma'al sheyatama ba'oil ameis. That Rebbe Lazar had a question. What about the leather, the skin of a behema tameya? Can it become tamei oil ameis? Meaning, if you take the skin of a behema, hang it over graves, will anything that goes under that? Anything under that certainly will become tamei. Will it itself become tamei? Hashta, the Gemara says ar behema tahira loimetama ar behema tameya mibai. If the skin of a behema tahira is not going to become tamei, the skin of a behema tamei will become tamei. So one answer, shani yasam the other hadre kra No, there it's different because the pasuk is going back to it. There it says, and they lifted up the curtains of the Mishkan and the oil mayid, and what covers it, and the tachash asher olav. And we say makish elyon l'tachton. We make a hekesh. We compare the upper to the lower. Matachton kari oil, just like the under, meaning the krushim is called an oil. Af elyon kari oil, so the elyon is also called an oil. Fine. Gufa. Boy Rebbe Lazar. Now we're going to go back and discuss that last case. Boy Rebbe Lazar. Or behemoth tameya mao sheitam tumas oilen. The skin of a behemoth tameya, can it make tummy tumas oilen or not? What's his question? He's asking about the tachash, right? That what like a leather or something that was in the days of Moshe. That was his question. That tachash in the days of Moshe that they used, was that something from a behemoth tahira or behemoth tameya? Someone of Yosef mighty baile. What is this question? Tanino, we learned it. If something was going to be used from Melech HaShamayim, which the Mishkan is Melech HaShamayim, right? So if you're going to use something, it has to be something that's from a behemoth tahir, not a behemoth tameya. So it must be that the tachash that was in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu was tar. So Rav Yehuda Mishnei Mechzais Hayu. So Rav Abba has a question. There were two covers in the Mishkan. Achashal Iris Elim El Damim. One was of skins of goats that were red. Achashal Iris Tchashim. And one was of the skin of Tchashim. It was really one cover of a diamond in Tala Ilan. It's compared to this Tala Ilan, which is a, Rashi says, is a Chaya Tameya, and it was spotted. It had different spots and different colors. Right? Right? So he's saying clearly that one of the covers of the Mishkan was this Tala Ilan, right? This spotted animal. When a Tala Ilan is Tameh, I have no idea what the contemporary animal would be for Tala Ilan. So Hachikamer Kamin Tala Ilan, who it looked like the Tala Ilan, Sheyesh by Gavon and Harbe, that it had many different colors. For light Tala Ilan, but it's not actually Tala Ilan. The Ilu Hasam Tameh V'Avatar. There it was Tameh, and here it was Tar. So it was just an imitation Tala Ilan.
Archibald says that it's a type of cat. It's
cat?
A cat-like carnivore with a speckled, multi-hued coat.
So does that mean like a tiger or something like that?
Yeah.
Leopard, tiger. They say that.
Yeah.
Oh, like a
Leopard,
puma or
tiger.
something like that.
Probably not a
like
tiger. It says a small cat, not a big cat.
I mean, it's splitting hairs, whatever it is. It's a type
Right.
of cat that hangs out in trees and whatever. But
Maybe like a margay. I think it's called a margay.
Like a who?
There's smaller versions of like leopards. They're like minier versions of them.
Okay, well, but choose it's cats also. You see a lot of small cats around here that have all sorts of spots, right? Yes. Anyways, if that's the case, now normally ihachi is a question. Here it's not a question; it's a statement. Ihachi, if that's so, this is what we mean when we translate saskuna sheshsas b'gavan and harbe. That this saskuna, which means the word comes that it's very happy with its different shades. Yeah. Okay, I guess let's stop here because the island looks a little wiped out from going two
I always thought it was a unicorn.
2 hours of shear.
A unicorn has one horn, Israel.
A unicorn is spotted,
But it has many colors.
Is there such a thing as a unicorn, or you've been
Supposedly in the base of Migdash.
No, Rashi
or
on Chumash
something.
says that it was an animal that only existed for that point, and that was it.
My kids like to talk about it.
But I have a kasha on that tomorrow that we
Oh,
just
look at that picture, huh?
Simon, you got to talk in order to bring it up, Simon.
what a baby face.
Hey, so it's a little trivia, but it's a real question.
Those are the good old days.
Archuk a little.
Yaakov,
What was that picture? I have a different picture.
No, I have a trivia question. It's kind of a trivia question, but it's a kasha also.
This one comes from when Icky made it. I think it was when
Where
Icky
else
made
did we
Chris.
have this pasuk so far
I
in
have-
the Daf Yomi Shir over here? Unless somebody
I have a picture that's going to be worth some money.
This
Which
all-
pasuk?
That pasuk that we just said about Rachel hiding the spies. Where else did we have it?
In brachas or in Shabbos?
We had it in brachas.
That what?
So the Gemara in brachas over there, we've used it as a raya that we make atzei besamim on jasmine.
Right.
Wait a second.
When did we have
Jasmine
it?
is not Pishton. Bracha, stop mem gimel amid beis on the top.
What was the
Whoa,
Megayah
what a
to?
memory.
What
What
was the
bracha you
Megayah
make
to?
on besamim? On all the different brachas that you make on besamim.
Oh, no,
Different
I
types of
can't.
Right.
minim
I
besamim,
forgot that
variatim
I need
besamim.
matzah also, and maybe a couple of
So I
appetizers.
brought a
He
raya
could buy
from
his own
here,
matzah. Who's okay?
from this
So
pasuk
sorry.
that you make a bracha on jasmine
sorry.
atay besamim.
I'm so sorry.
I don't have no recollection.
I went and looked it up in the middle.
That's very good. I'm saying that you even remembered after something like that.
Appetizers.
What top is it on, Israel?
43b on the top.
And what does it end in?
What? Yeah, she
What do you
What
mean,
does
what does it
brachas
end?
end?
He needs his appetizer.
What?
How many blot in
Your
brachas?
Majesty.
63.
I hope nobody's eating
Oh,
upstairs.
so then I passed it. To me, I have no recollection.
But I think the Gemara over there is bringing a raya that jasmine is a atay besamim. Jasmine is not Pishton.
Well, what did you do tonight?
What?
You going on like nobody has any idea what you're talking about?
That's why I said it was trivia.
What time is it?
Random.
I said it's
Well,
trivia.
you got to walk around the block. You're allowed to, even though you're quarantined.
No, I said it was. First of all, I just jogged 3 miles.
Then maybe that's the issue.
Yeah.
No, but you don't. I'm saying it's a trivia question, and it's also I don't understand. It's a 2 different things. The Gemara is saying you can't even saying that it's Pishton, and the Gemara over there says it's jasmine.
Right.
Different
So
flavors.
thank you for the trivia. You just have to give us time to answer if it's a trivia question. That's all.
I didn't have much hope for you, Stoves.
Thank you.
Are we learning Motzei Shabbos?
Yes.
Can we start a little bit later? South Bend ends like an hour later than you guys.
Yeah,
What time
no.
are you over with?
No, we can't.
Parrots, add me to the chat, please.
I'll send you a link. You'll add yourself.
Okay.
What time is Shabbos over? 7:21 is Shkia. We got 72.
Last week, I don't have it. Hold on. I'll tell you what it was.
Like 8:40 something. No.
I'll tell you right now what it was. In fact,
Doesn't give you time to go to the bathroom. I think we got to start moving it lower.
don't worry. That's not a problem. Last week, the Shabbos ended 9:07.